Hello everyone, my name's Anna Smith. I'm doing a video on HerbaLand Sustainable Lifestyle Scholarship, and I'll be talking about how I personally try to be sustainable in my life and how anyone can be as well. So, I myself am a firm believer that consistently doing the small things are what make a huge difference. Although green initiatives are amazing, and in no way am I trying to discourage being a part of them, obviously. There can unfortunately be this idea that you have to do everything perfectly and do every single thing you can to help the environment, which unfortunately leads to a decrease in a desire to want to help. So these are just a few ways that I do my small part to help the environment. So first, in my volunteer work. For a summer or two, I was volunteering at the Hamilton Dream Center, which is a nonprofit organization that provides free food and clothes to homeless people and those in impoverished situation. We relied on donations from churches, grocery stores, and from selfless individuals. The organization was very sustainable because we recycled and reused food and clothes that were still good. We were not giving away anything terrible. Don't get me wrong. They were still totally fine, and that's just good for the environment, and it helped a lot of people. So that was amazing. I also make a difference in my personal waste disposal, so I could be a little bit perfectionistic with this. For example, when I'm buying, let's say, like shampoo and conditioner, I always check the label to see if it can even be recycled before I even bother buying it. If it can't be, I don't bother. When I buy at Tim Hortons, let's say I buy like salad, I don't just throw it out. I actually bring the whole box and the fork home because they can be composted, and I actually just pack them on my bag and then bring them home to compost. I just did that today, actually. So I've even actually brought home some paper that was being thrown out at my store for the sole purpose of recycling it. So, yeah. Finally, in addition to my recycling and composting efforts, I also buy clothes and accessories along with many books exclusively at thrift stores. It's just a small way to reduce manufacturing demands and combating the supply and demand society that we live in. Besides, it's cheaper, right? It's just a couple of things that I do and anyone can do. As long as it's done consistently, it can cause a really big change. So I did a lot of thinking about why this is important to me. And I've come to the conclusion, I don't really have a deep traumatic story about a father dying in a trash compactor or anything like that. Genuinely, I just find it an important thing. I find it unethical that so many people look at the world, they just throw a plastic bag into the ocean or a cigarette butt on the road, and they just don't care. Humans are such an intelligent species, and it's crazy to me how few people make the time to make a difference. And it just comes down to, instead of finding a solution that helps the earth, ultimately helping humans, a lot of people resort to finding a more efficient option. And I think that just if everyone saw the value in doing something different, I think there could be real change. So moving on to the depressing stats. Yay! So 2019, food was the most common material sent to landfills, comprising of about 24.1% of what was in landfills, and municipal solid waste specifically. When you add other organic things like yard trimmings, paper, paperboard, wood, whatever, the percentage goes up to 51.4% of municipal solid waste in landfills. So what I do myself, I've already talked about how I'm very specific about my composting and my recycling. But in addition to this, I also grow my own vegetables in my own garden, and then the ones that are bad, I compost or use for the soil for nutrients. It's just my small way of lowering that percentage a little bit. Cars also comprise of about 50% of carbon emissions, and I prefer to take the bus or walk. So, yeah. So this one's really sad. So the percent of wearable and decent clothes that ends up in the landfill, it's heavily debated, but it's a fact that it's at least 50% that are totally fine clothes that are just thrown out because they're out of fashion or they're old, like even if they're totally fine. Additionally, 92 million tons of textile waste is produced every year. So, yeah, because of the trends in fashion and just the consumer society, an outfit could be worn, like the how long an outfit is worn and kept has decreased by 36%. It's harming the environment more than just landfills because it's also harming water supply. The amount of water that's required to make cotton specifically is 20,000 liters to make 1 kilogram of cotton. And the textiles also produce about 10% of the ocean's microplastics, which is just devastating. It's devastating. That's all you can say. That's terrible. So for myself, I thrift, I donate, I rewear, I get donated clothes, and these are just little things anyone can wear. Now that I'm thinking about it, this shirt right here was literally from my mom's friend like 30 years ago. Like she gave it to me just, I don't know, like 2 years ago. And I love this shirt, but it's so old. But it's just the little things that can make a big difference. So a personal goal of mine is to continue my volunteer work. I loved working at the Hamilton Dream Center. I felt like I was making a big difference both environmentally and socially. And I also plan to expand my vegetable garden at home. So, I was looking at some HerbaLand initiatives, and I just want to genuinely say it makes me so happy to see all the ways that people are committed to help. Doing the small things are enormous. That was my whole presentation. That was what the whole thing was on. But it's also nice seeing just a couple of people doing the big things, just stepping up and doing some enormous things for change. Like whether it be planting trees, shoreside cleaning, protecting animals, manufacturing healthy and more eco-friendly products, including gummy bears. I love gummy bears, so it's just amazing. So when choosing my favorite, my inclination was to pick the one that's planting trees because sustaining nature is my favorite aspect of sustainability. But honestly, if I had to choose what my favorite one is, it'd have to be HerbaLand's dedication to creating eco-friendly merchandise. To me, that's just really incredible and practical forward thinking. It's just changing the simplest of things: straw, bags, water bottles, everyday items, and making them reusable and more economically friendly. It's so simple and so perfect. So I'm gonna just conclude with this thought. It's just a reminder, like for anyone who's listening, that just the smallest things can make a difference. Whether it's to quickly check to see if the type of plastic you're using could be recycled, or seeing that 2 types of bananas, one organic, one regular, they are about the same price and choosing the more sustainable option. Even if you're thrifting, just because it's cheaper, it still does make a big difference. And it's just important to be conscious of that. Well, that's the end of my video. Thank you very much.